Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. If you've been looking for a real-world guide to philosophy, the art of living peacefully, and just finding some absolute clarity in your thoughts and actions, you are totally in the right place. Growing up, or honestly, just navigating life at any age, is full of doubts, struggles, and these moments where we feel totally out of control. But what if I told you that all those daily annoying frustrations are actually the ultimate origin story for a superhero? Seriously. You don't need a radioactive spider bite or a billionaire's bank account to excel in life. You just need the right training manual for your mind. So I want you to immediately rethink what power really means. When we hear the word superhero, we almost always picture someone with a cape, lifting a car or flying through the sky. But is that what real strength actually is? What if the most intense battles and the absolutely greatest displays of power don't happen out in the world, but rather quietly, inside your own mind? Today, we're going to completely flip the script on what it means to be strong by tapping into wisdom that is literally thousands of years old. Okay, let's dive into this. Think about the stark contrast between what we see in movies and reality. On one hand, we have your standard fake comic book powers. They're super fun to watch, but they're not exactly useful when you're stressed out about a massive math test or having an argument with your parents, right? But then we have real, tangible inner powers, which I beautifully outlined in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. This ancient text reveals that true power is abhayam, absolute fearlessness. It's having a pure mind, and daya, a really deep compassion for others. These are the inner powers that will actually change your life. Now, to understand how to actually use these powers, we have to talk about the two forces constantly fighting inside us. In Sanskrit, these are called Davi Sampad and Asuri Sampad. Davi Sampad refers to those divine qualities, or as we're calling them, superpowers, things like fearlessness, gentleness, and truth. These are what lead to genuine freedom and peace. On the flip side, Asuri Sampad are your inner villains. We're talking about traits like pride, uncontrolled anger, and greed. And let's be honest, those only ever lead to sadness, bondage, and a whole lot of confusion. The ultimate battle of life isn't against some guy in a metal suit. It's the invisible war between your inner hero and your inner villain. So how do we make sure our hero actually wins? Well, just like any superhero needs a good training sequence or a wise master to guide them, we need svadhyaya. And that simply means the study of sacred books and the pursuit of higher knowledge. Because, you don't just wake up one day with a perfectly peaceful mind. Reading texts like the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads is literally how we charge up our powers. It opens our eyes to truths we wouldn't normally see and gives us the incredible clarity needed to navigate a world that is just full of distractions. Let me share a super quick story from the Katha Upanishad that just perfectly captures this idea. It's about a brave young boy named Nachiketa, who literally came face to face with Yama, the god of death. Yama tested this kid by explaining that in life we are always presented with two paths. There's Preya, which is the path of instant pleasure, kind of like eating a whole chocolate cake or playing video games when you definitely should be studying. It feels amazing right now, but it usually leads to emptiness later. And then there's Shreya, the path of goodness. Now, this one is often way harder in the short term, but it brings lasting peace and true power. Nachiketa, using his higher knowledge, confidently chose the harder path of goodness. And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference between a true hero and a villain, even in our biggest epic tales. Think about the Ramayana. Lord Rama was the ultimate hero, not just because he had a great bow, but because he completely embodied those divine superpowers. When he was faced with some wildly unfair challenges, he remained remarkably calm, incredibly forgiving, and totally focused on his duty, his dharma. Ravana, on the other hand, he had immense external power, wealth, and knowledge, but he was completely blinded by his inner villains, his pride, his huge ego, and uncontrolled anger. Ultimately, Ravana wasn't just defeated by Rama, he was destroyed from the inside out by his own uncontrolled impulses. All right, let's bring this down to a very relatable, everyday modern level. Picture this: 3 brothers named Chinku, Pinku, and Dambia. One day, their mother simply asked for someone to run to the grocery store to pick up some wheat flour. Chinku shook his head and flat out said, "Nope, I will not go." Pinku did the exact same thing, but Dambia immediately jumped up, rushed to the store, and got the flour. The very next day, the mother went to the temple and brought back 2 pieces of sweet petha as prasad. Suddenly, Chinku and Pinku immediately jumped up, demanding the sweets. But remember, they completely refused to help her the day before. Let's see what Dambia did. Dambia walks in, and without even asking for the sweets, he does a very respectful pranam to his mother. Because of his noble behavior, she naturally gives him the sweets. Now, trace Dombia's exact actions here, because this is a literal masterclass in deploying superpowers in daily life. First up, getting the flower was acts of service without complaining. That's yajna. Second, the pranam showed deep respect. Third, he didn't just greedily eat the sweets alone. He broke them up and distributed them equally to his family, showing this beautiful sense of equality. And finally, when a beggar knocked at the door, he gave his own personal piece away, practicing charity or dhanam. Those everyday, totally mundane moments, those are the exact opportunities we have to practice our superpowers. Another massive flex of your inner superpower is something called Dhamma, which simply means sense control. Think about this scenario. You're playing a game or watching a crazy good video, and it's time to sleep or study. Your eyes and your mind are screaming to keep watching. The ability to grab that remote, turn off the TV, or put down the controller, that is true sense control. It's realizing that you control the screen. The screen absolutely does not control you. Letting your eyes or your impulses dictate your actions is just feeding that inner villain. Mastering your senses, that is pure hero behavior.
Then we have abhyayam, which is fearlessness, and arjavam, which means straightforwardness. Now let's be real, true courage isn't about standing in front of a tiger with a bunch of bravado. That's not brave, that's just foolishness. Real fearlessness is having the guts to always tell the truth, even when you know for a fact you might get in trouble. Straightforwardness means your thoughts, your words, and your actions perfectly align. You aren't cunning, you don't cheat on a test just to look smart, and you definitely don't say one thing while doing another. Being honest in a world that often rewards trickery takes immense, fearless power. And honestly, it's a power that feels incredibly rewarding to hold on to.
Now, you might be wondering, okay, this is all great advice, but is this ancient philosophy just a bunch of nice stories to make kids behave? Or is there something deeper going on here? Like, is there an actual science to how these ancient texts view the world? Well, let's completely shift gears for a second and look at how this 5,000-year-old wisdom holds up against modern physics. Because, trust me, the parallels are going to blow your mind. Now, what's really interesting about this is the connection between modern cosmology and the Nasadiya Sukta, which is a hymn from the ancient Rig Veda. Science says the universe started as an initial singularity, this unbelievably dense, dark point we can barely even comprehend. The ancient hymn calls it darkness wrapped in darkness. Science tells us the universe underwent a rapid expansion driven by intense heat and energy. The Vedas say creation was born of the power of heat and primal desire. Science is currently seeking a unified theory of everything. The Vedas literally describe a unified state where the one breathed windlessly. They are essentially telling the exact same story of creation, just using different languages. How cool is that? And it gets even deeper when we look at quantum physics. Back in 1924, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Louis de Broglie discovered that every particle of matter actually has two natures, a definite particle form and a formless wave nature spread across space as pure probability. Thousands of years earlier, the Bhagavad Gita described reality in the exact same dual way. There is reality with a definite form that we can see and touch, and a formless, infinite reality underlying everything. Think of it kind of like water. It can be a solid ice cube you can hold in your hand, or invisible vapor in the air. But fundamentally, it's the exact same thing. Science and the Gita both agree for sure. Reality is not just what it appears to be on the solid surface. There is a profound unseen layer to absolutely everything. So let's see how this incredible cosmic structure builds into how we actually treat each other day to day. Quantum entanglement proves that particles that once interacted remain intimately connected across vast distances. Affecting one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. The Gita teaches the exact same concept of unity, the idea that the divine is present everywhere and we are all fundamentally connected to every single living creature. So the crucial takeaway here is this: showing compassion, practicing nonviolence, and choosing not to hurt others isn't just a nice moral rule. Because science physically proves we are woven together at a quantum level, showing compassion is actually the most logical way to interact with the universe. All right, so how do we bring all this grand, mind-bending cosmic knowledge back down to our everyday lives? Well, here is your practical hero's daily checklist to level up those inner superpowers. Wake up early and focus your mind. Read good, enriching books. Help around the house without sighing heavily. Turn off the video games the moment it's time. Always be straightforward and tell the truth. And show deep, genuine gentleness and compassion to the people and animals around you. These aren't just chores. These are the actionable, daily steps that keep your inner villains permanently locked away. We've seen that the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads isn't just some old, dusty mythology. It perfectly aligns with the absolute deepest discoveries of modern science, and it gives us a highly practical guide for living a peaceful, really powerful life. But ultimately, the greatest war isn't happening in a comic book. It's happening right now, inside your own mind. You have the knowledge, you have the training manual. The only question left is, which side will you feed today?